Yeah, so it's like within a 2 block radius, you got 3 magistrates.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will call this meeting of the Woodford County Fiscal Court to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Squire Taylor.
Here.
Squire Gentry.
Here.
Squire Carl.
Here.
Squire Varner.
Here.
Squire Downey.
Here.
Squire Blackford. Squire Gill.
Here.
Squire Brown.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Offering our invocation tonight is Pastor Joe Lauderdale at Living Grace Church.
Father, we're thankful for time together, Lord. We're thankful for men and women who sacrifice their time to make this county better, to make this community better. Lord, we're thankful that you are a part of every decision and a part of every plan. Lord, I pray that your divine wisdom guide, Lord, that your supernatural guidance provide, Lord, and that we are drawn together as one community for one purpose. We thank you for all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. If you would, and you're able, please rise. I'd like to note that in our prior committee meetings, we had a committee of the whole, and we had individuals from the Milner and Tyrone Pike neighborhoods who came to voice their opinions and concerns regarding the rail explorers, and they came early, so we allowed them public comment at the committee meeting prior to this, which you can see online on our Facebook page. But I want to make that note before I recognize anybody for public comment that we did have a group speak on the record regarding their concerns. Is there anyone else from that area that wishes to speak or address the court? I think everybody has pretty much been heard, so there's no one additional. I do want to recognize as part of public comment the president of the Woodford County Farm Bureau and also a local farmer, Mr. Jeremy Dotson, is here to talk about the Woodford County Rodeo. And you are welcome to come to the podium, sir. If you don't mind to turn on the mic, please.
I just wanted to come, and last year was a big hit. We're planning the rodeo for the 16th and 17th of August this year. Was wanting to ask permission to use the whole county park again. We actually raised quite a bit of money. Our scholarships we were giving out $4,000 worth of scholarships, and with another donation, this year we gave out $24,000 worth of scholarships. We also got, we normally spend about $2,000 at the youth auction. We spent almost $7,000 this past year at the youth auction. So everything from the concession stand all the monies went to the youth. We've got one more bleacher payment to make, and would like y'all's permission to use the facilities again, 16th and 17th of August.
And Mr. Dotson, let me commend you on your work on the bleacher project. When that project started, there was a lot of consensus building that needed to happen. There were a lot of people that had to come together, and there was a lot of stuff you had to deal with in that process, and you did it well, and you raised a lot of money, and you really added value to the county park in your hard work in getting those bleachers together.
Y'all need to go out and look at if y'all went to the county fair, we put the other set up at the pulling track, which looks exactly like the set we put up at the rodeo arena, and there were people walking dogs that didn't even come to the fair that said y'all have changed the look of this place forever. And that was one of the things, the stationary bleachers, they look really nice. People need to go look them. A lot of money and a lot of time, a lot of sweat went into those.
Well,
bleachers are not as easy to put together as the instructions say, I can tell you that.
Well, excellent work, particularly on the coalition building and the fundraising to get that done. That took leadership, and we appreciate it. I will make the motion for the allowance for the rodeo at the county park and the fairgrounds. Is there a second? Second by Squire Varner. Open up the floor for any questions for Mr. Dotson or any discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Dodson. You're also more than welcome to be excused, but you're also more than welcome to stay. Any other individual wishing to address the court or the public? Seeing none, I would request approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of June 11th, 2024. We'll take a motion this time. Motion by Squire Brown, second by Squire Carl. Seeing no additions, corrections, objections, or otherwise, all those in favor of approval, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the first ever vote for approval of the minutes has happened. Committee reports. I'd like to report that the Personnel Committee of the Fiscal Court has met, and we recommended approval of the job description for the air curtain burn box operator. Upon that recommendation, is there a vote to approve same? Motion to approve same. Motion by Squire Gentry, second by Squire Carl. All those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. Then there was a recommendation that we advertise and begin the hiring process for the air curtain burn box operator. I need a motion by Squire Carl, second by Squire Gentry. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries. The next item was the recommendation of the Personnel Committee adopted the recommendation of Solid Waste and Recycling Director Sherry McDaniel for the candidate for recycling equipment operator. I would note that that is not on our personnel order, so it needs an affirmative vote of the Fiscal Court to hire Mr. Maxberry. Is there a motion for same?
Motion.
Motion by Squire Gentry, second by Squire Carl. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries. The salary list for the year 2024-25. It was recommended by the Personnel Committee for adoption and approval by the full Fiscal Court. I will say that the first payroll of the year, due to all the salary changes, including the 3.4% cost of living adjustment for county employees, is a large task that Teresa Tipton manages really well, but it causes her a lot of work and a lot of attention to detail, and we really appreciate Teresa's hard work on that. But is there a motion upon the recommendation of the Personnel Committee to adopt and approve the salary list for fiscal year 24-25? Motion by Squire Brown, second by Squire Carl. All those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries. We also recommended the approval of the personnel order. Is there a motion to approve that recommendation?
Motion.
Motion by Squire Gentry, second by Squire Taylor. All those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries unanimously. Those were the total sum of the items before the Personnel Committee, Madam Clerk, I do believe. And then we moved into a Committee of the Whole. Again, during the Committee of the Whole, we had a special motion to suspend the rules in order to take public comment from neighbors in the Tyrone Pike Milner area regarding the Rail Explorers. And again, you can see that on our Facebook page. Then we moved into adoption of the proposed second reading of the ordinance 2024-03, the amended administrative code. This was a very, very important amendment, particularly considering that it modified the introductory period for shift employees and the vacation for shift employees, which would include EMS, paramedics, and EMTs, and correctional officers at the Woodford County Detention Center. It also included the new provisions, 36036, the cost of living adjustments for elected officials, the coroner, the county attorney, and the magistrates. That vote was approved. What was the vote count? 6 to 2. 5 to 2. We do have one absence. That was approved 5 to 2. The next item was to have the recommendation of the second reading of the budget. And so That was a full recommendation of the court. Now I would entertain a motion to have the second reading of the same.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Taylor, second by Squire Carl. Are there any questions or comments regarding the budget? I would just note that we've spent in excess of 16 hours in public meetings on the budget. Our budget is on our website. You can access our budget and any of the additional documents either on our website or through our court clerk. And I'm extremely proud of this budget. It has a lot of very, very important things, including the EMS, paramedics, and EMT pay increases. So, seeing that we have a motion on the table, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries unanimously. Mr. County Attorney, sir.
Judge, this will be a summary second reading of that budget for the fiscal year 24-25. First provision is general fund. General fund total is $32,086,168.58 and comprises 56.17% of the budget. The road total is $99,435.14 and comprises 5.43% of the total budget. The jail total is $3,248,252.01 and comprises 5.69% of the entire budget. The local government economic assistance fund total is $6,905.43 and comprises 0.01% of the total budget. The state grants total is $11,235,719.43 and comprises 19.67% of the budget. The federal grants total is $2,629,754.50 and comprises 4.60% of the budget. The disaster emergency services fund total is $258,945.74 and comprises 0.45% of the budget. The sheriff's asset forfeiture total is $202,874.03 and comprises 0.36% of the budget. The county clerk permanent storage fees total is $72,410.22 and comprises 0.13% of the total budget. The opioid settlement total is $312,884.63 and comprises 0.55% of the total budget. The American Rescue Plan Act total is $3,580,210.17 and comprises 6.27% of the total budget. And finally, the debt services total is $393,658.86 or 0.69% total. So the total budget is $57,127,218.74.
Thank you, Mr. County Attorney.
Thank you, Judge.
The next item that the Committee of the Whole took up was the fiscal court audit for fiscal year 22-23. And I am very pleased to report that that was a clean audit with no comments. That reflects 5 years in a row with clean audits with no comments. And it shows that our financial responsibility, our stewardship of taxpayer dollars, and the way that we spend money and procure goods and services is a model for counties across Kentucky. For a county our size to have a $57 million budget, that is a lot of T's to cross and I's to dot. That is a lot of detail that goes into the financial management. And while our team on the second floor has remained essentially the same, it's grown slightly. We've moved Melody into the treasurer position, but we have a very small amount of staff. I didn't mention Eddie Mattingly earlier. Eddie is a crucial part of our financial team, but our small team does big work, and I really appreciate everyone and our department heads on their budgeting and expenses and making sure that we have a clean audit and we can show the taxpayers that we do a good job with their funds. So that we has a recommendation to accept the audit, and that was approved in our committee meeting. And that was the total sum of the committee of the whole. Madam Clerk, did I miss anything? Seeing none, then I will move to reports. Tonight, we have a special report. To start off, I'd like to invite a member of the Board of Elections, Mr. J. Henry Duncan, to come to the podium to honor a very special lady on her birthday.
Yes, this is.
You mind to turn on your mic, sir?
Turn it on.
Yes, sir.
This is a special day for a special person, Miss Sandy Jones. I don't know, it's not Mrs. Sandy Jones, I guess.
Definitely
But
Mrs.
anyway, she's the Board of Election. I'm representing the Board of Election. She's our boss, and we appreciate her. And I've got a little card here, and my wife helped me pick this out. We've been talking about. It says happy birthday, and it's a very simple card, but I think all of us will understand these simple words. Celebration, where you've been, where you're going, and just how special you are, Sandy. So we want to recognize her, the road she's traveled for the last year or two. She just makes a great impression, not only on the Board of Election, but on the whole county.
Yes.
And we want to recognize you for that, Sandy.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. I can say that the good Lord made a habit of making wonderful midway women on this date, as you share a birthday with my wife. But, Madam Clerk, since it is your birthday, we would call you up for your business and let you get out here to enjoy it.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. Getting older, it's not quite so bad.
Getting better. Not getting older, getting better.
Thank you. So I have two things on this evening. I have another HAVA Help America Vote grant, and it is in the sum of $8,300. This will be to be spent for one of two different things. We have security booths, one of which we have received already, and it has worked wonderfully, but we also need voting booths. So we're allowed to spend that $8,300 on, at this time, we need the voting booths. So if you would please adopt this resolution and allow Judge Executive James Kay to sign this, we can go ahead and get this through and hopefully get these in by the next election, our general.
Is there a motion to adopt the resolution 2410, authorizing the filing of fiscal year 2025 fiscal security HAVA application with the State Board of Elections for up to $8,300? Motion by Squire Carl, second by Squire Taylor. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting same, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries.
Thank you. Secondly, I have an order of allowance to the Board of Assessment Appeals. This is to make sure that we have our 3 members of the Tax Assessment Board to be paid. I serve as the clerk on this board. We've had 2 appeals. Became a little bit unusual, but we did have 2 appeals that we had to work through. So I have 3 people who served on this: Rhonda Barrier, J.J. Martin, and Corey Cooley. $100 is what they're paid in sum, $50 by the state and $50 by the county. So if you would approve this order, I would submit that and see that they are paid.
Is there a motion to approve the order for same?
Motion.
Motion by Squire Gentry, second by Squire Varner. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries.
Thank you. I have one last item that I'd like to.
Yes, please.
I have a very dear friend he was a true friend to the state as well as our county. Before I took office 10 years ago, I met this gentleman. He was a representative from the Kentucky Department of Library and Archives. And before I took office, I met him because I started attending our Kentucky County Clerks Association meetings before I was sworn in. He befriended me, and he was the reason that we got our $60,000 grant, our first grant, that enabled us to have all of our land records on digital form. He was a true friend, and we lost him to his battle to cancer last week. And I just wanted to publicly thank him and let everybody know what a dear friend and how much he contributed to our county. Larry Barnett.
And we'll offer a moment in silence in honor of Mr. Barnett. Amen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Happy birthday.
Thank
happy,
you,
happy
Larry.
birthday.
Thank you all.
Now I order you to be excused. You may not hang around. Thank you all. Madam Treasurer, your report, please. Thank you, Mr. Duncan. Thank you, sir.
Tonight's balance is $16,890,945.62. I also have quarter-end transfers that I need approved.
Is there a motion to approve the quarter-end transfers? Motion by Squire Brown. Second. Squire Gill. Is there any discussion or questions thereon? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And those quarter-end transfers are approved.
Lastly, in an effort to kind of start clean for the new fiscal year, we have been looking into some different ways of managing our credit cards. Amazon has moved to a pay-by-invoice system, and they don't invoice until it's shipped. So there's invoices, it's not like your consistent 30-day billing period. So it's become really difficult on the accounts payable side to make sure that that's getting, that we're paying it all at one time, because she'll pay it and then you'll have 3 more invoices that come in. So it's becoming an administrative issue for her. So I did speak with the financial officer and asked her for some suggestions, and we thought it may be easier to stop using the pay by invoice system and instead get a credit card from Stockyards, where our other credit card is from, that's dedicated for Amazon. We can put that card number on there, they can use that, and that way we get that one invoice for Amazon purchases, and it's with their 30-day billing. In addition to that, we also opened up the Community Trust credit card when we moved our bank account there. That has proven to not be as successful as we had hoped, simply because they're not local as far as paying the credit card. Stockyards, we can take the payment to the bank and we don't have any issues with it being applied on time. The Community Trust has to be mailed, so we run into the issue with the court meeting approval versus getting it to the bank. So my suggestion would be to close that card and just add that $5,000, increase our Stockyards card by that $5,000, just so that we keep everything together. We're not running the issue of having multiple payments that are having to be made, that have to be mailed. If we can hand deliver them, it's going to be easier to make sure that everything is in on time and easier to manage it as well.
Yeah.
So those are my 2 suggestions tonight.
And I mentioned about our audit, we have an internal audit committee. We meet about these things regularly. We approve some changes in procurement to streamline things. One of the things that is most important to note is that in the modern era of Amazon, this is the way to do it so that we don't violate some of the older laws of procurement. Yes. This is the way we meet our deadlines, we get bills paid, and we don't leave invoices outstanding. more than 30 days. And the pay by invoice system, there are several vendors that use that, and it really causes problems in the ability to procure things.
Well, and there's an order number, there's an invoice number, and then sometimes there's even a second invoice number. And you can place one order, but then it's split up into 4 different invoices. It's just not a clean process at all.
So in order to streamline that process, upon the recommendation of the treasurer, I entertain a motion to authorize the closure of the Visa account with Community Trust Bank and request a limit increase on the current Visa account with Stockyards Bank and Trust. Motion by Squire Carl, second by Squire Gill. Are there any questions?
Is this a separate motion for the other card, for the additional card?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries. Now, upon the recommendation of the treasurer, we need a motion to authorize the county to apply for an additional credit card through Stockyards Bank and Trust that is dedicated for the purpose of Amazon purchases only and cease using the pay by invoice system on the Amazon account.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Taylor, second by Squire Gill. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Madam Treasurer. I'd like to invite Director Sherry McDaniel for Solid Waste and Recycling. She has a couple items.
Yes, we did the bid opening for our household hazardous waste event, and Clean Earth was the only bidder, but they have been our contractor for the last 2 to 3 years, and they've done an excellent job. So I would like to accept the bid for the household hazardous waste for Clean Earth.
Is there a motion to accept the recommendation of the director to accept the bid from Clean Earth in the amount of $51,325.90 for the household hazardous waste event and $12,200 for the non-oil-based paints?
Motion.
Motion by Squire Gill, second by Squire Taylor. Does anybody have any questions for Director McDaniel? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. The motion carries.
And then it is my request to have the judge sign the contract to provide the collection for this event. And it is scheduled for September 28th. Yay.
Mark your calendar, September 28th.
We can start promoting it.
Thank you, Director McDaniel. I entertain a motion to approve the contract between the Fiscal Court and Clean Earth of Calvert City, Inc. for collection, disposal, and hauling of the 2024 Household Hazardous Waste event on September 28th, and to authorize the judge to sign any and all documents related thereto. Motion by Squire Brown, second by Squire Gentry. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you,
All right.
Director McDaniel.
Write that down, September 28th. We will start promoting.
All right, and you are more than welcome to be excused.
I need to get that contract when you
Okay,
get it signed.
we'll affix that signature. Ask and you shall receive. There you are. All right. We do have a preventative and maintenance agreement for the Perfection Group for a 3-year term for the certified maintenance for the Fiscal Court. I need a motion to approve the certified maintenance agreement between the Fiscal Court and Perfection Group for that 3-year term as presented. Motion by Squire Downey, second by Squire Gentry. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. Next item is our Emergency Management Director, Mr. Drew Chandler.
Thank you, Judge. I've got a few items tonight, beginning with a request to accept a small grant in the amount of $1,500 from Marathon Pipeline. This project, or this money, began with a conversation at an Emergency Response Commission meeting, and one of their questions about what kind of challenges we would face as a result of a pipeline incident in Woodford County would be in the rural areas where we still have some cellular telephone connectivity issues. So this $1,500, if you all vote to approve the acceptance, would allow us to buy a handheld satellite phone and a few months of prorated service.
Does anybody have any questions for Director Chandler regarding same? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
I got a
Yeah.
question.
Squire Gentry.
So after how many months do you get it for?
We'll buy as many months as the funds allow. There's a state price contract where you buy, it's like a prepaid calling card, so you buy so many credits and they work until they expire, and then you buy another card and just keep perpetuating the service to keep the phone active. And then depending on how much you use it, you might burn through that card faster than if it's just in a dormant state.
Motion to approve the grant terms between Marathon Community Investments and the Fiscal Court for satellite connectivity grant in the amount of $1,500 as recommended by Emergency Management Director Drew Chandler.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Gill, second by Squire Taylor. Are there any additional questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Judge, we were also approached by GovDeals, and they would like to use Woodford County's likeness as a success story in some of their marketing materials. So the county seal, maybe some de-identified auction data from when we began using that in 2021, I believe. And before we give that approval, we wanted to bring that before the court for consideration.
And the county attorney and myself have discussed that we don't see any issue therein. We have had a successful partnership using GovDeals to sell our surplus equipment. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the use of the Woodford County Seal in Government Deals marketing and communication materials as presented. Motion by Squire Downey.
Second.
Second by Squire Taylor. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries unanimously.
Judge, I wanted to share, just for information, I did receive confirmation from the Division of Emergency Management that Woodford County was included in a request for a federal emergency declaration. The state may hear back from that in 10 to 14 days, and that would be for a public assistance project. Tracy's already working on some of the documentation for the road department. We've received some already from the city of Midway and communicated with for sales. So if that comes to fruition, we'll have another disaster declaration to add to our federal recovery for the treasurer to keep up with.
Thank you for that update, Director Chandler. Any questions? Yeah.
Unrelated, but Director, do you mind to share about the training opportunity that you all are doing at KCTCS next month?
Yes, so there is FEMA. They deliver a lot of courses, but they also have a lot of higher ed consortium entities, one of those being Texas A&M Extension Service. We worked with the Department of Local Government to get that course approved for elected officials training program. So that is a one-day session. It's 6 CEs, but you could reasonably expect to be there most of the day. It's being hosted by KCTCS on North Main Street. We'll have a pretty good turnout, hopefully. The enrollment looks pretty good. We're right teetering on having enough for them to actually have the class, but after that course being advertised in the KCO newsletter last week, I don't expect it to be an issue. If anybody would like any additional information that wasn't in the course announcement, I'm happy to work with you to get you what you need to determine whether it'd be a valuable use of your time.
And it is free.
It is free, yes. And here.
Thank you. Thank you, Squire Downey. Thank you, Director Chandler. Anything additional?
Judge, I know it's not my birthday, but I'm wondering if I could be excused.
Okay. You are excused.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for all your good work. That is the sum of our reports. Does anybody have any additional reports for the court? Seeing none, we'll move over to general orders and unfinished business. I have no board appointments for you. We do have the claims, the bills to be paid. Are there any objections to any of the bills to be paid? Any questions, comments? You have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Judge, on the claims, I see where each department, we're buying hand tools, sockets, ratchets, stuff, and I just was asking, is there each department, do they have a inventory list of those items that's bought? Because I know that adds to our budget, that's our assets, and just wondered if we could get departments to have a inventory list.
We do have an inventory list at a certain nominal value, above a nominal value. Not everything would be inventoried, but we keep the inventory of everything we've ever purchased, so we have that data. Things that eclipse a certain amount, Madam Treasurer, are inventoried automatically.
What is that threshold that we inventory, do you know?
I think it's $1,000, 500. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, because like the power tools now, you're starting around $500, $300 to $500, so that adds up pretty quick. Just that's my comment. Thanks, Judge.
Thank you, Squire Varner. I encourage you to talk to each department head about their processes specifically in regards to that as well. Thank you. Other questions or comments regarding the claims? Any individual claim bill to be paid? Seeing none, are there any objections to same? Also seeing none, the bills will be paid without objection. Is there a motion to approve the claim of the Visa amount of $497.14 for the Sheriff's Office using asset forfeiture funds? Motion by Squire Gentry, second by Squire Carl. All those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We need a motion to ratify the June 14th, 2024 email approving the claim for the Visa in the amount of $6,836.05 and $1,092.32. Is there a motion for saying? Motion by Squire Brown, second by Squire Carl. All those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries unanimously. We approved the quarter-end transfers. Do we have additional transfers for approval? Yes. Well, I'd entertain a motion to approve same.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Gill, second by Squire Downey. All those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries. The personnel order has already been approved forthwith. And we move on to neighborhood grant programs. We have no action on any neighborhood grant programs, but this does come at the conclusion of the grant cycle. Is anybody aware of any outstanding grant expenditures or funds that any neighborhood may still have outstanding? None for the record. I will circulate the Young and New Farmer Grant Program for your review. I've discussed it with our Ag Extension agent, Mr. Bo Neal, and we think we have a pretty good program mapped out. So I will send that for your review and approval, likely at our next court meeting. I'm still working on the MOA for the food pantry with Versailles and Midway. That will need to be done before October. The Huntertown Road four-way stop. You received the study from the University of Kentucky today at the request of Squire Blackford, who could not be here. He asked that we not discuss that item until possibly a next road committee meeting. On new business, we are working on the GIS agreements with the PVA, with planning and zoning, and with 911, and I will circulate those to you to be approved at our first meeting in July. But as of July 1, Kenneth Johns will be a county employee and moved from planning and zoning to county government. We need to approve the Clifton Road property lease agreement that is before you. Is there a motion to approve same?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Squire Gentry, second by Squire Brown. I just note that we have a piece of property at 265 Lower Clifton Road. We contract with Alex Cheek, who we also appointed to the Woodford County Fire District Board. We as in the county we got that land through a FEMA hazard mitigate, or a flood mitigation grant program prior to when I was judge, and that was to make sure that we can clear out properties from the flood zone. And Mr. Cheek uses that property to store some equipment, and he also mows and maintains that for us. And that's basically the barter position of that lease, which is a benefit to the county, something the county road department doesn't have to maintain, and it benefits Mr. Cheek as well. That's the lease we have on the table for approval. We have a motion for same. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Our next item on the agenda is in regards to medical cannabis. And I will turn it over to Mr. County Attorney to begin our discussion on the route that the court intends to take with regards to the passage of the legislation from the General Assembly. Mr. County Attorney, sir.
Thank you, Judge. I believe some of you were on a Zoom session where they talked about the advent of the medical cannabis law in Kentucky, which will be going into effect in 6 months and a week, January 1st of 2025. And that was a really excellent presentation. I've done some follow-up since then. I've reviewed and copied the pertinent statutes. And the fiscal court is going to have to make some decisions, and that's why the judge has made this an agenda item tonight, because there are some time constraints you will have to take into account. Basically, you have a number of options and you need to choose one. One is basically you do nothing, which I would not advise, but it's kind of like what we just talked about in the pre-meeting about when you receive a recommendation from the Planning Commission, you have 90 days within which to act. If you don't, by operation of law, it becomes law. You have until January 1st to have a plan in place, or else state law will govern the non-incorporated areas of Woodford County. What I'm talking about only applies outside the city limits of Versailles and Midway. They do what they choose to do, which can be the same as you, although I expect with what Versailles has already done, it'll likely be different than the route you go. And that will govern what the Versailles City Council adopts, will govern what occurs within the city limits of Versailles. I'm not sure if Midway has acted upon this, but whatever action they take will govern Midway, and what action you take will govern outside those incorporated areas in the rest of Woodford County. If you take no action, medical cannabis is allowed then to operate out in Woodford County once they go through the state licensing procedure. They will have to abide by state requirements based on our county size to be able to operate. And so if you don't do anything by the first of the year, that's what will happen. You can pass an ordinance to prohibit it. Now, if you choose to pass an ordinance to prohibit it, which is your prerogative, there's a form ordinance that you would adopt that does not allow for it in the unincorporated areas. Now, if you do that, there can actually be a petition process to make this a ballot issue. 10% of those who voted in the last general election who reside out in the county would have to petition to have the opportunity to vote this up or down, despite your ordinance prohibiting it. Which segues into your other option, which is simply to make this a referendum issue on the ballot in the general election in November. To do that, you will have to have this to the county clerk. You have to adopt a resolution to do so, and it has to be submitted to the county clerk by the second Tuesday in August. So, in fairness to the clerk, you really only have 2 meetings to do this by, either your first meeting in July 9th, or the second meeting on July 23rd. I think in fairness to her, you want to get this to her as soon as possible. If you choose to make it a referendum issue, you again would adopt a resolution. There's a form that KCO has prepared that you would adopt. And within that resolution, it would include that you're asking that this be placed on the general election ballot in November. It would say, are you in favor of the sale of medicinal cannabis at a licensed dispensary and the operation of other cannabis businesses in Woodford County? And then there would be a block for yes and a block for no. And whichever one prevails, you either, if no's prevail, there can be no medicinal cannabis in the county portions of Woodford County. And if that is the case, it cannot be placed on the ballot for a minimum of 3 years after that. If it's voted down, there's a 3-year period before it could be taken up again. If, on the other hand, those who live in the unincorporated areas of the county vote yes, that they do believe it should be allowed, we're going to have to go through an ordinance process, and we can be ready for that, where you have to set the regulations that relate to it. They can be consistent with what's going on in Versailles. They don't have to be. They could be consistent with what goes on in Midway. They don't have to be. There could be, again, 3 different approaches, 3 different sets of regulations between Versailles, Midway, and Woodford County. But you would need to be thinking about that in the event of a yes vote so that we could have it in place by January 1st. The only restriction in that regard is you can make it more restrictive than the state requirements, but you cannot make it less restrictive than the state requirements. So that is, in a nutshell, is what you need to be considering. The judge and I have been discussing this for some time, what the best approach should be. Obviously, if you put it up to a vote, you are getting the feel and the consensus of the county. And again, the good thing about that approach, it's not a special election. You're not incurring a cost associated with a special election. It's a presidential election, probably going to be a big turnout. You get the best representation of how the electorate feels when you have a big turnout. So if it was ever going to be on a regular ballot, presidential election ballot year is usually the best time to get a real sense of what the community wants. So that's what you all need to be thinking about and deciding upon. I think this should be an agenda item at your next meeting, Judge, and I believe you intended to do that. But that's an overview. I can answer any questions if any of you have any.
Yes, thank you, Mr. County Attorney, for the summation. I would just say that that there will be no vote or decision tonight, that you'll have 2 weeks to consider the options set forth, but the recommendation of the county attorney and myself is to put this issue to the voters of Woodford County. Kentucky is not a referendum state. You don't ever get the opportunity for direct democracy, small d democracy, where you can vote on policy items. I think that the General Assembly did a good job in allowing for direct democratic vote on whether or not to allow this in jurisdictions. It's similar to a wet dry vote. And so the recommendation is that. Squire Taylor, you had something?
Yeah, I just wanted, from my limited research on the issue already, from a KCO email, I did want to clarify, it did say that whether we were to prohibit it or if the referendum were to prohibit it, it would be all businesses. It wouldn't just be the dispensary. It would
Correct.
be,
related to the medical cannabis.
We could have harvesting or process. Correct. The agricultural side of it would not be allowed.
It's more than just that. Yeah, there are different levels of who can be involved in the medical cannabis operations, and they would all be impacted. And that would, of course, be for just the county.
Which is different than the cities that wouldn't have those.
Yes.
Wouldn't have harvesting, for example.
Yes. That's a good point, Squire.
Other questions or comments related to that? Squire Downey, you recognize.
Mr. County Attorney, as I was reviewing some of the law, the initial licensing is going to be handled via lottery. Is that my understanding? And
I think it depends on how many people are putting in for it.
Okay.
There are limits per county, per your size and everything, how many you can have. I have no idea, and that's kind of one of the reasons Judge and I were thinking about this might be appropriate for a vote. I don't know what the reaction is going to be to this. I don't know, you know, it depends who you talk to. Oh yeah, it's long overdue, or no, I don't want anything to do with marijuana in Woodford County. I have no idea. If it passes, and there is, and that may be indicative of about how many people may be putting in for this. It's not like I could just do it. You have to go through
Right.
some hoops to qualify. But it could get to that point because we're going to be limited on how many there could be in Woodford County if it is approved. So yes.
Mr. County Attorney and Squire Downey, I'd like to call Director Hunter, Planning and Zoning, who has worked on the regulations as far as the city side.
City side, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Interesting question, and I'll just point this out. I've been getting calls from all around the country here lately. I got one today, two today. And it's interesting because initially when they passed the legislation, January 1st was the target date, but they were going to release licenses in July of this year. And then they changed that because the idea was to get folks operating and moving, so then January 1, the places out there people could go get the product right there January 1. They changed that with this lottery system, and so the applications have to be in by July 1. I've been told from 2 applicants, so this might not be accurate, but this is just what they told me, that the application is somewhere like 200 pages long. It's a $150,000 application fee to the state that's non-refundable. You have to have a lease in hand. You have to know the property by address that you're going to be in there. That's all part of the application. The applications have to be in July 1, and then the lottery is October the 1st for the 5 different groups. They're going to do a lottery for the dispensaries, for the producers, the processors. To the county attorney's point, I don't know how many people will put in for the producer or the processor, producer, safety compliance facility, or cultivators, but the dispensaries, there's been a lot of activity, and I can tell you I had several calls. One of the gentlemen that called me said he was from out west. They were putting in 15 applications in the state of Kentucky all over, so that when the lottery occurs, if they're in Versailles and Paducah or Lexington and Louisville, their goal is to have as many of them as they could have licensed in the state of Kentucky. So we're not sure what's going to happen with that lottery, but this is more a technical question I've had from the get-go, and that was why Versailles, I think, acted quickly, was if they get their application in January, and this goes with the county attorney or the judge, and they have their license in hand in October, could we actually stop them once they maybe haven't started dispensing the product, but they actually have a property they've purchased or leased, they got their business in play, they got a license in hand come October. They can't start selling but they can start growing earlier than that. If we don't regulate them with zoning before October, how would we be able to control them if we don't have the rules in place by October 1 as opposed to December 1, for example, if they already have a license? And that's where we were confused all along.
If I may, Judge.
Yes, Mr.
There always has to be possibility of performance.
Exactly.
If the county is taking the position that they're going to address this via vote,
In November.
we're not going to know till November.
Until November.
Now, I don't know if the state has built in, you can speculatively file in the event that Woodford County
guys
does pass.
that's
And
exactly
I
what I was
honestly
wondering.
don't know that.
That's a great
And I'll
question.
be very frank, that's for them to find out.
Yep,
And
that's
I
right.
mean, those who are interested in doing this, it's not for me to educate them. I'll be educated along the way. But you raise a good point that I had not thought about. Yeah, you normally think, okay, locally, who's going to do this? Probably not going to be locally. There's probably, as you say, they're probably going to saturate Kentucky
it's huge, yeah.
just to hope if they can't get it here, they'll get it here. They'll get it wherever they can get it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not like this is necessarily locals who are going to have these own these dispensaries
Yep, I
and
agree.
benefit from that. There are people who do this across the nation, I guess, who are better situated to hit the ground running and know what to do than somebody looking into this. Well, maybe I want to do that out in Woodford County. I live here in the county and I might want to do that. But Again, since we do not know whether it's going to be allowed for in the county, that's all speculative at this point.
And I'm really asking on behalf of Midway, ironically enough. I think you guys are heading down the direction the city's gone for sales, but I've got to figure out, and I need to talk with the mayor of Midway what their plan is. And the risk I'm fearful of, if they do nothing or nothing gets done, either going to a ballot initiative or passing something in the zoning ordinance or passing another ordinance, they've got to figure this timeline out too.
Well, they'll have to, the ballot ordinance issue has to be addressed by the second Tuesday in August.
Yeah.
So we will know. And again, we want to be fair to the clerk and not wait until right before then. So we have 2 meetings in July, and if the court decides when this is ripe for discussion and decision to do that, then I can prepare the resolution easily, and we can get that to the clerk. Really, all we need to do, she has a copy of the statute that says what it's going to say. If there's a vote, we'll have the resolution ready probably for the next meeting. And, well, or actually, Judge, I can have a resolution ready in case it's to be voted on.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's
but again, to answer your questions, and again, respectfully, can't speak for Midway. That's for Midway to address and deal with as how they feel is appropriate for their city.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting too, just to add on, the way our zoning ordinance is structured, the way I feel right now, is if the county did nothing or whatever, I think the zoning ordinance would prohibit it now because of that general prohibition clause we have in there. We don't have this defined as a use in the zoning ordinance. So some folks have called me and said, well, we figure if you do nothing, we'll be able to just go ahead and do it because they hadn't taken any action. But we right now won't let you open a business of that magnitude out in the county. You know, we would categorize that as a retail-oriented business. It'd have to be zoned retail, and we would not allow that in an ag zone or CO zone or, you know, the zones we have in the county. There's no way someone could probably go out there. And now the growing part's interesting that was raised here. The cultivator component kind of lends itself to an ag use, so that would be tricky. But the other 4 components, there's no way that they could go out in the county and open a facility under the current zoning ordinance verbiage, regardless of what you guys do or until you act to allow it or disallow it. So, but I didn't think about the cultivator. And by the way, I heard the state's not going to issue there's 4 tiers of the cultivator facilities. They're not going to issue licenses for the biggest tier in the initial go around of licenses, is what they told me. So.
Thank you, Director Hunter. We appreciate your expertise on that. Thank you, Mr. County Attorney. Any questions or comments? Everybody understand that we will take this issue up for hopefully a resolution at our next fiscal court meeting. Madam Clerk, is there anything additional? All right, announcements. We'll start out with Squire Taylor.
Thanks, Judge. Just wanted to give a quick update on broadband. If you hadn't seen in the news, the BEAD grant funds are now available for Kentucky from the feds for them to make that request, and that's over $1 billion across the state. I want to particularly thank on our part of the process on the it was a very difficult contesting process, and our participation in that. I want to particularly thank the Bluegrass Ad, Squire Gill, and Kenneth Johns on their help as we were trying to navigate how we could be involved in helping that. That was really difficult and made more difficult by some tricky decisions that have been made at different levels. But I'm hoping now that portion is largely done for the state, that they can buckle down and get the contract finalized with All Points Broadband so that we can move forward on our project. Now, those are not conflicting projects. There's an opportunity for kind of a layered approach to have additional funds for different portions of the county with BEAD if we were awarded BEAD funds. If a provider seeks BEAD funds, to be clear, but that could be helpful in reaching some folks that aren't able to be served based on other criteria from the grant funding that we've already received. That sounds really complicated, but what the distinction has been is that threshold of what somebody was eligible based on the speed of their upload and download speeds. It went from 25 megabyte download speeds on the first grant fund to this BEAD funds are 100 megs. And so anybody that's in between that 25 and 100 meg in their speed eligibility those were kind of left out in the open. They were kind of in a bad spot previously, and the BEAD funds could help provide that faster speed for them. We all know that it's a shame that there was ever consideration that something at 30 megs is going to be considered broadband, but that's where it was. So again, I'm hoping that they're going to get that contract finalized very soon. We've been in communication, the judge and I, with All Points and Department of Local Government, encouraging them to continue to communicate, and I'm hopeful that they're going to have a contract sooner than later. But there have been a few other providers on these grant funds in the last couple weeks that have sign an agreement, but it's been a long process for everybody. So we're not behind a bunch of folks. It's just there have been a lot of different moving parts for both providers and for the state, and I'm hoping that we'll get there very soon.
Thank you, Squire Taylor. Squire Gentry.
Nothing, Judge, thank you.
Squire Varner.
Thank you, Judge. Farmers Market, just announcement, corn's coming in this coming week, and they've got plenty of green beans. So if you're interested in that, it's out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Squire Carl.
Nothing, Judge. Thank you.
Squire Downey.
Two things, Judge. This Thursday, Versailles Brewing is hosting Celebrity, and I use that term very loosely, Jeopardy, for Mayors Troggett and Vandergrift, and Todd Probus participating. Funds raised go to the winner's local charity of their choice. So go out Thursday and support that. And Saturday is the Duck Derby. The local Versailles Kiwanis Club has been partnering with the Lexington organization now for a few years, raising money for our local scholarship fund. You can still buy ducks up until Saturday morning. And if you're around, they release about 7,000 ducks there at Lexington Green Pond. It's a pretty neat event, but you still have time to purchase some ducks and support the local Versailles Kiwanis Club. So
we had a Woodford County winner last year as well on it. So
thank you, Squire Downey. Squire Gill.
I just have a question for Squire Taylor. It was pretty
Will you yield to a question and announcements? All right.
Thank you. It was pretty disappointing with that bead map that the cell phone companies were allowed to challenge it and claim that they provide a service. They can provide high-speed internet. And when this is supposed to be a project of, high-speed internet through fiber optic cable. Do you know anything else about that? I mean, I think it's just put a lot of people kind of farther on the back burner. Is that the way that's playing out?
I have learned in this process, never say never.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of goalposts moved. Largely, I will say these various providers, whether it be fixed wireless or cell phone or satellite or DSL and versus fiber optic providers, all these different technologies have really been a moving target. I was also very disappointed in that determination that cell phone carriers could claim to provide service at that 100 meg. We all know that maybe a few customers might be able to achieve that in those service areas, but if everybody on a map that designated that they could be that they would take that service, it would throttle that speed, and those folks would go down significantly below those thresholds. And I haven't given up that there's a process to continue to appeal to that, but I don't know where that's going to land for sure. Right now, the determination is, again, that they are eligible to contest the eligibility of BEAD funds for those areas. And that's one of the things that was really confusing about that map that we all looked at. Squire Gill and I and Kenneth Johns and the Bluegrass Hat spent a lot of time on calls and online, and Squire Gill even went as far as being a resident in one of those areas, trying to look into that service for herself to see how that would reflect, and I really appreciate those efforts. I don't know for sure, but right now that's the determination. I hope it goes something different. I would encourage everybody to reach out to, I believe that determination was particularly made at the federal level. And so if anybody wants to reach out to your congressmen and senators, that's probably a worthy cause.
Thank you.
Anything additional, Squire Gill?
No.
Squire Brown?
Nothing, Judge.
Thank you. Mr. County Attorney, sir.
Judge, just since you mentioned it, happy birthday to Kara, and I know you're looking forward to getting out of her to bestow many, many gifts and a fine dinner upon her, so we want you to get out so that you can do that.
I cleaned the house up. Really good. Anything from the Woodford Sun?
We're going to report the house clean, but I'll need to call Mrs. K to confirm that happened.
Rumors are spotless. Thank you. I would like to invite everybody to the Woodford County July 4th Independence Day Spectacular at the Woodford County Park, hosted by the Fiscal Court and the Versailles City Council on the holiday, July 4th. Hope to see everybody out there. And I would be remiss if I didn't wish my wonderful wife, one of the greatest ladies in Woodford County history, a Midway daughter, Kara Ann Endicott Kay. She's the only reason I can do this and do it well, and I really appreciate all she does for our family. And I appreciate everyone who supports our relationship, and everybody who has wished her a happy birthday. She's the best thing that ever happened to me, that's for sure.